So our today's proverb is wisdom is the daughter of experience. What is the meaning? If a person is getting on in years, or he has grown old for that matter, that means he is loaded with a ton of or a lot of experiences out of the events he has faced in his life. Now obviously at this point of time in his life, he can guide people towards what is wrong, what is right, with the help of all these experiences he has grown over years. So what is the meaning of this proverb? ये बाल मैंने धूप में नहीं पकाए हैं. You must have heard, you know, this proverb from the mouth of elderly people. Okay, so hi there, this is Ritu Tamret and you are with me in my channel Literature with Ritu. And if till this time you're not subscribed to my channel, then please do subscribe to it. Also switch on the notification bell before you leave the channel, which would obviously remind you of watching all my videos. Okay, again this has appeared. So today's story, which is Hearts and Hands, written by O. Henry, who was an American author. And O. Henry is not his original name actually. His original name is William Sidney Potter. O. Henry is his pen name, and which is also called pseudonym. Okay, the spelling is Pseudonym. So this is pseudonym. Pen name, pseudonym, one thing. So what is pen name? Pen name actually is an assumed name or fictitious name, you could also say, used by a writer instead of their original or a real name. Fine. So let me see. Okay, fine. Now he is a kind of writer who is famous for his stories where ready wit, gentle humor, conciseness, surprise endings have been the hallmarks. And the present story which we are going to study, or which we are going to read right now, is not an exception either. Now the present story which we are going to talk about is Hearts and Hands. Has got a, this story has also got a twist or quirk at the end of it, which leaves the readers dumbfounded. So surprised that you can't imagine. So this is also a story which is a very much interesting story, you could say. Now if we talk about this title, Hearts and Hands, let me start my pen. So if we talk about this writer, the title. So as I ever tell you guys that it's so imperative on your part to understand the title first. I always tell in my videos that it's so important on your part to understand the meaning of the title before you get into the chapter. Okay, but in this case it's not possible, it's not viable for that matter. Why? Because there are so many things inside the story, or there are so many deep embedded things inside the story. Without understanding these things, it's not possible for you to understand the meaning of the title itself, or that too at the very beginning or very start of the chapter. So it's not possible. So the meaning of the chapter I will make you understand surely, but at the end of the chapter. Fine. But on the other hand, I would like to tell you one thing. There are so many deep embedded meanings, or implanted also you could call. I have also got into the habit of using a lot of synonyms. So deep implanted meanings are there inside the story that really makes the story that much more fascinating, engrossing, absorbing for that matter. So these are the synonyms for fascinating. Fascinating means interesting. So engrossing also, absorbing also. So you can make use of these synonyms while you are speaking anything, while you are writing anything. Okay, so let's get started with our narrative, Hearts and Hands. Also be ready with a pen and copy so as to pen down a lot of great deal of synonyms I'm gonna give you right here. Actually I do this, or I give a lot of synonyms in all my explanations for your benefits, of course, so that you could make use of all these different unique words while giving the answers of the questions in your reference to context at the time of your examination. Fine. And one which I would like to tell you. This is the thing which really makes my channel that much more unique and distinctive from those of others. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started with our today's narrative, that is Hearts and Hands. At Denver, there was an influx of passengers into the coaches on eastbound BM Express. The whole story is set on a backdrop of, or on a background of, a train. Okay, so there was a train standing at Denver. Denver was a capital city in Colorado, a western US state, which was in, of course, in west. Obviously the train is standing in a in a state, sorry, in a city which is called Denver, which is situated in the western part of USA, because you have to take care of these things, where the train is situated, or where the train is standing right now, or where the train is going, because there are so many things related with west, east, these, that, so you'll have to take care of, you will have to take notice of these directions and all. So Denver was a place where a train was standing, and Denver was a capital city of Colorado, which was in the western side of USA. Now this train, there was an influx of passengers. That means there were abundance of passengers, boarding the trains at that time, and the train was eastbound. The train was going towards the east, was about to go towards the east, and the name of the train was BM Express. Now I'm going to give you some of the synonyms for this word influx. See this influx. This word you could write inundation, inrush. Okay, these are the two beautiful words you can use in place of influx of passengers. Fine. Now in one of the coach there sat a very pretty young woman dressed in an elegant taste and surrounded by all the luxurious comforts of an experienced traveler. So let me in one of the coaches, actually there was a very beautiful young girl sitting in one of the coaches, and she was dressed, how she was dressed? She was dressed in an elegant taste. That means the way she was dressed was so stylish, graceful, refined, you could write. Given three synonyms, okay? The manner she was dressed was so stylish, graceful and refined for that matter. And also she was surrounded by all the luxurious comforts of an experienced traveler. And the kinds of accessories she was carrying with herself were all, luxurious. You could write, were all opulent, sumptuous, expensive. So again given you three synonyms for this word luxurious. So opulent, sumptuous, the spelling is somewhat a little bit tough, so I'm going to tell you the spelling also. You could write in your copy sumptuous, sumptuous. You could also write this word in place of luxurious. So she was carrying everything, or all kinds of accessories which were so expensive or opulent. And also it seemed that she was a kind of person who traveled a lot. Either maybe she was in such a profession that, not profession, but maybe, I'm just telling, maybe because she was in such a profession that she would she used to remain on the go all the time, like she used to travel here and there all the time. Or maybe she loved traveling, maybe she loved traveling a lot, that's why she would always on the go. So this it seemed that she was an experienced traveler because of the accessories, because of the things she was carrying with herself, and they were all opulent and expensive. Among the newcomers were two young men. Okay, now as it's quite obvious from this scenario that passengers were boarding the trains one after the other. So two newcomers boarded the train. Okay, so the next couple of lines are going to tell us about the kind of appearances these two young men were having, who boarded the train, of course. So one of of handsome presence with a bold, frank countenance and the manner. The other, a ruffled, glum-faced person, heavily built and roughly dressed. The two were handcuffed together. Okay, so I mean, the one out of the two people who boarded the train was very handsome. See here, very handsome. He was very handsome, handsome presence. He gave a handsome presence to the public over there, and he was very bold. And the kind of facial expressions he had got on his face, countenance means face, mind you, countenance means face. The kind of facial expressions he was, giving at that time were so bold and frank. I mean, he was that kind of personality. Also, you could write he was a kind of personality who was intrepid, eye-catching personality he was having. And the other one ruffled. This word is specifically used for your disarranged or disorderly hair. The other one was having a kind of hair which was disarranged or disorderly, for that matter. Glum faced also. If we talk about his face, then he had got a kind of face which was, I mean, dejected. You could write sad, depressed, or you could write gloomy kind of face. He was that. The other person had got the gloomy kind of face, heavily built. If we talk about his stature, the kind of personality he had got, then these words which have been used over here, this tells us that the kind of stature or the kind of personality he had got, it was stout, sturdy, strapping also you could write, strapping, well built, well made, or muscular. So again, so many synonyms. You could also make use of these synonyms while you are giving the answers to your reference to context. So this is really going to leave a very good impression on the mind stuff of your teacher. That's really going to score you very good marks. I'm damn sure about it. And you could also make use of these synonyms while you're speaking, while you're writing something, anywhere you could use. So that's why, I give you a lot of synonyms, a lot of, related words, of course. And also this line tells us that how they were handcuffed together. Surprisingly, these two fellows were bound to each other, or their hands were. Obviously, if we are talking about handcuffs, if we are talking about the kind of chains with which prisoners are tied, so this is quite obvious here that these two fellows were handcuffed together. That means they were bound to each other with the help of a handcuff. So handcuff, you could also write fetters in place of in place of handcuffs. You could also write fetters, manacles. You could also write manacles, shackles. So again, three words you could use in place of handcuffs. Now let me remove this. Now here, as they passed down the aisle of the coach, the only vacant seat offered was a reversed one facing the young women. So now they boarded the train, and now they were in the aisle. Aisle means a passage. You must have seen a passage between the rows of the seats. You could see this kind of aisle or this kind of passage anywhere in any building. You could see this aisle in a church also, in a theater also, in an aircraft also, in a train also. So this is a kind of passage where people once board the train, or people once get inside these kinds of buildings. So in this kind of passage they can move here and there. So in this passage, now in this aisle, they were moving in order to search for the seat where they can seated themselves, or they can seat themselves. Okay. Now there was one only seat which was in such a position, I mean the reverse position, that seat was in a reversed position. That means the seat was facing that attractive woman, or anybody who would sit in this seat would obviously face this young attractive Here the linked couple seated themselves. Okay, they sat there in that seat. The young woman's glance fell upon them with a distant, swift disinterest. Now, as they sat in the seat, this young woman, first of all, had a look at these two fellows, but she just had a look at them casually. She did not probably register who they were, but in the couple of moments later, or first of all, let me clear this. Distant, swift disinterest. Distant means something which is reserved, kind of like that she tried to show that she was so reserved kind of personality, that she did not want to look at anybody, or she did not want to talk to anybody. So reserved kind of personality she was. So this is what distant means. Swift disinterest means disinterest, we know, something which lacks interest. Swift means quick movements. She just had a look upon them with some quick movements. She just had a look, and she just uh, uh, moved her eyes away from them in quick movements. She did all this. This is what swift means, and disinterest means something which lacks interest. Then, with a lovely smile brightening her countenance, but in the next couple of moments, she realized that she, one of them, the two of the passengers, one of them was one of her acquaintances, means one of them was a person whom she knew well. That's why now see how, with a lovely smile brightening her countenance and a tender pink tinging her rounded cheeks, she held out a little grey gloved hand. That means in the next couple of moments she realized that one of them was one of her acquaintances. That means she knew him, sorry. That's why what she did, she first of all gave a lovely smile to him, that person, one of them, one of the passengers which were bound together. She gave him a lovely smile which was brightening her countenance. That means the kind of a smile she gave to him was giving a kind of glow to her face, and also it was making her cheeks, which were already pink, thus the kind of a smile she was giving to that fellow, this smile was giving or making her cheeks a little more pink, a little more red. Okay, so what is the reason behind that I try to make you understand each and every word, because this is what I have decided, that unlike others, as I also know that there are so many channels in YouTube's, they will not make you understand each and every word. They just skip these things. They make you learn, or they teach you superficially, but this is not the case with me. I just want to make you understand each and every line. And also there is one reason behind it, that if suppose you, let me make you understand, if suppose from here up to here, you will be given, or sorry, you will be given from here to here a reference to context. Suppose you will be given this reference to context, and in that reference to context you will be required to give the meaning of brightening her countenance. It could be like this: please explain the meaning of brightening her countenance and tender pink tinging her rounded cheeks. This could be a question, posed to you in your examination. Then in that case, how will you write the answer? That is why, with the sole purpose of making you understand each and every word, I have started my channel, and right now I am doing this. Okay, so I hope you will understand the kind of labors I am performing at making you understand each and every line, each and every words. Okay, so I expect you guys, appreciate my videos, you appreciate my channel by giving me a lot of thumbs ups. Okay, so let's get started once again. She held out a little grey gloved hand. So, okay, we were talking about the kind of a smile she was giving, and that smile was, making her face a little bit more glowing, more brightening, and also that kind of a smile she was giving were making her cheeks a little bit more pink, a little bit more colorful. Okay, now she held out a little grey gloved hand. Now, what she did? She held out her hand. She extended her hand towards that person in order to shake hands with him. It's quite natural when you meet somebody, you extend your hand in order to shake hands with that person of your acquaintance. So this is what she also did when she met that person whom she was she it seemed that she knew that person. Grey gloved hand. Now let me make you understand. Grey gloved, she extended the hand where she was wearing a gloves. She was wearing gloves in her hands, and this gloves actually is a symbol of privileged women, sorry, is a symbol of privileged women in those times. How? Privileged women in the sense that there were societies where people were divided into different classes: high class society, middle class society, lower class society. Now also these things are prevailing in our society also, but there were these things were quite prevailing, these things were quite prominent in those times. So women who used to wear gloves belonged to the high strata of the society. So this is the symbol of classicism. This is the symbol of women belonging to the high class society in those times. So it is quite obvious from these lines that she also used to belong to a high class society in those times. When she spoke, her voice, full, sweet and deliberate, proclaimed that its owner was accustomed to speak to be heard. Now you just pay a lot of attention towards these lines, because these lines are sort of telling us how proud she was on herself, how she used to take a lot of pride in whatever she had got, how she used to take a lot of pride in the kind of position she was holding in the society. She spoke, her voice was very sweet when she started speaking. It was very sweet, and the kind of it was proclaiming, it was so deliberate. First of all, it was so spontaneous, because she started speaking with so much of confidence that it was so deliberate, it was so spontaneous for that matter. And it also proclaimed, her voice proclaimed, it declared that its owner. Who was the owner? The owner was the owner of the voice. Who was the owner? That woman was the owner of the voice. Proclaimed that, it declared, her voice declared that its owner, that means that girl, was accustomed to speak to be or to be heard. It declared that that woman was so accustomed, was so habitual of speaking all the time. That means she was so confident that she used to speak all the time, that she could speak anything, she could speak everything, and whatever she would speak would be, the manner, the style she was speaking, would make people hear her all the time. The kind of manner, the kind of style, the kind of elegance with which she was speaking, with which she used to speak, would make everybody around her listen to her with surprise, dumbfoundedly. Okay, that means she wanted that everybody should listen to her when she was speaking. That much vanity she was having on herself, that much proud she was on herself. So these are very important lines, you must understand. Okay, let's go to the next page. Okay, sorry, this page is not over. Yeah, well, Mr. Easton, if you will make me speak first, I suppose I must. Don't you ever recognize your old friends when you meet them in the West? Now, she started speaking and she recognized, she recalled who that person was, and she also called out to that person with his very name, which was Mr. Easton. That means it's clear one of them who was one of her acquaintances, and his name was Mr. Easton. Now, he told Mr. Easton that if he wanted to make her speak first, she had got no problem and she was ready to speak first. I suppose, uh, rather from here, don't you ever recognize your old friends when you meet them in the West? Now, it's a kind of sarcasm. So sarcastically, she told Mr. Easton that he did not recognize his old friends when they were in the West. So, what is there in the West that he will not, or he would not recognize his friends? Maybe West was a direction, or people living in the West were so wealthy, or something of that kind. Writer has given some hints about something very privileged or something very good or something like that, which make people arrogant. Maybe people don't want to speak to other people, something like that. That's why she spoke so sarcastically. Don't you recognize your old friends when you meet them in the West? Okay, so now the younger man roused himself sharply at the sound of her voice, seemed to struggle with a slight embarrassment which he threw off instantly, and then clasped her fingers with his left hand. Now this young man roused himself sharply. That means earlier he did not probably register her who she was. Obviously, the same thing happened in case of that woman also. At first, when she had a look at the young man, she did not recall who he was. She did not realize who he was. The same thing happened with this young man also. He did not probably realize who she was, but but as she called out to Mr. Easton, he roused himself sharply at the sound of her voice, or he just became so surprised. He became so surprised as to who was there, who was calling out to him like that. So, in such a familiar voice. So he was trying to kind of rankling, he was kind of started recalling, or she was kind of trying to recalling who she was and how friendly, or how with a lot of familiarity she was calling out to him like that publicly. So the young man roused himself, or started trying to recall that woman who she was. Seemed to struggle with a slight embarrassment. Now there was a slight embarrassment. Obviously, I have told you short while back that he also started having some kinds of embarrassment, because he was not able to register who she was. He was not able to recall. He was not able to he was not able to recall. He was not able to recognize who she was. So that's why he started facing some kind of embarrassment, but he threw this embarrassment so instantly. I mean, in couple of moments, he also threw off his embarrassment all of a sudden. So again, see, I have given you the meaning. So though it's a little bit difficult for me also to make you understand each and every line, each and every word so deeply, but I try my best to make you understand. I understand in myself, as far as I myself am concerned. I understand these things, I mean, just in one read, but it becomes somewhat difficult for me to make you understand each and every line. It's very difficult, but I try my best to make you understand. Fine. So, seemed to struggle, and this struggle, see, he threw off instantly. All of a sudden, he threw off all his embarrassment, because in the couple of moments, he also managed to recognize her. He also managed to recall who she was. Then clasped her fingers with his left hand. Now, as she had extended her hand in order to shake hands with that man. So he also put out his left hand in order to shake hands with that woman, but he put out his left hand because obviously when he put out his left hand, his right hand was handcuffed with the left hand of the person sitting on the right side of him. Got my point? His right hand was, mind you, you will have to take care of these things because this is quite important. This is what the story revolves around. Okay, so he put out his left hand. Why? Because his right hand was handcuffed or bound to the left hand of the person who was sitting on the right side of him. So he put out his left hand in order to shake hand. But since it was not possible for him to shake his hands, shake his left hand with the right hand of that woman, so he simply put out his hand and then he clasped her finger. Clasp means he just touched. He just grasped or touched her fingers because it was not possible as such to shake his hands with his left hand to the right hand of the woman. It's Miss Fairchild, he said with a smile. I will ask you to excuse my other hand. Now he recognized who she was. What was her name? Miss Fairchild. Okay, that's why he called out to her, referring to her as Miss Fairchild. Now with a smile on his face, I will ask you to excuse my other hand. So he asked Miss Fairchild to excuse his right hand because it was bound with the left hand of the person sitting right next to him, or sitting on the right side, rather you could say, sitting on the right side of Mr. Easton. It's rather engaged just at present. So he said it was engaged at that moment of time. That's why he was not able to extend his right hand. Okay. So now let's go to the next page. Now he slightly raised his right hand, bound at the wrist by the shining bracelet to the left one of his companion. Now, in order to show why he was unable to extend his right hand in order to shake hands with her, he kind of tried to show why he was unable to do so, because it was bound with the left hand of his companion. The glad look in the girl's eyes slowly changed to a bewildered horror. Now, see, earlier when the girl had a look at Mr. Easton, so she got very happy. She started talking to him. She started giving a lot of smiles to this fellow, and I mean, she was so happy. Okay, just at the glance of this man, but just at the sight of that bracelet, just at the sight of that handcuff, which she probably did not notice in her first sight, she got so surprised, or she got so bewildered for that matter, that her eyes, I mean, she got so terrified or so horribly terrified that all the colors of her face faded away. The glow faded from her cheeks. Her lips parted in a vague, relaxing distress. Now, in order to relax herself from the distress, her lips were parted, or her mouth was wide open now, with in the kind of surprise she was having, or she was experienced at that moment of time. Easton, with a laugh, as if amused, was about to speak again when the other forestalled him. Now Easton, now this fellow, now we will talk about Mr. Easton. Mr. Easton here at this point of time, let me tell you, he was trying to pretend, or you could also use 2 or 3 words I am going to give you. Dissimulate, you can also use dissemble, you can also use profess. This is a very important word. If you write this word, that will be so catchy, for your teacher. So you could write this word. So that's really going to be so catchy for your teacher. Now, Mr. Easton was trying to pretend. Pretend means what? If you are pretending something, that means you are showing, you are trying to show something which you are not. Okay, and if you pretending, this word pretend also means you are trying not to show something which you are actually. Okay, so then in these two ways you can use this word pretend. You are, again I'm repeating, you are trying to show what you are not, or you are not trying to show, or you are trying not to show for that matter what you actually are. Okay, so here Mr. Easton was trying to do so. So he was trying to kind of uh, uh, was trying to pretend as if nothing had happened with a laugh. Though, of course, the reality is that his right hand was handcuffed with the left hand of his companion who was sitting on the right side of him. I mean, his hand was handcuffed, and obviously, when some crime has been done by a person, only in that case, a person is handcuffed like this. But Mr. Easton, with a little smile on his face, trying to pretend or trying to profess that nothing had happened. What if he had been handcuffed like this? Nothing had happened. As if amused, as if he was surprised, he was amused. Okay, was about to speak again, and now he was about to speak something. But in the meanwhile, the other person who was sitting on the right side of Mr. Easton forestalled him. Forestalled him means he prevented or obstructed Mr. Easton from speaking something. Okay, because I think here, obviously I'm not going to tell you the truth of these things, whatever is happening right now into the story, because I would not like to mar the kind of interest you are taking while listening to the explanation, while reading the story, because I mean, that is something like is going to kill all your interests and everything. So try to understand the way I'm trying to make you understand. So maybe I think this person sitting on the right side had understood the kind of embarrassment at the time Mr. Easton was in, because his right hand was handcuffed, and in front of us such a little, rather such a young pretty woman, he had got so embarrassed. So this person sitting on the right next to him did not want him to be so embarrassed in front of such a beautiful girl. So that is why, in order to save him from this embarrassment, I think this person forestalled him. That means he prevented or obstructed Mr. Easton from speaking anything further. Now see, the glum-faced man had been watching the girl's countenance with veiled glances from his keen, shrewd eyes. Now what's happening? This glum-faced man, I have already given you the kind of appearance he was having. So this glum-faced person was listening. Obviously, he was sitting, just around them. So he was listening to all the conversation which was going on between Miss Fairchild and Mr. Easton. He was taking notice of all the exchange of words which was taking place between Mr. Easton and Miss Fairchild, and obviously, if not continuously, he could see her face, but from the veiled glances. That means he was from time to time, swiftly, from quick movements, he was also trying to look at her. Obviously, she was very good to look at. She was, very, very beautiful. So he was also trying to look at her, but with veiled glances. And also he was listening to the kind of conversations he was right then involved in. So, he was also looking at her with veiled glances. That means glance. Obviously, he was having a lot of glances upon her, but veiled. Veiled means covered glances. That means he was kind of trying to have a look at that girl, but he did not want that girl notice that he was looking at her, sorry. Okay, this is what veiled glances means, that covered glances. He was obviously, once again I am repeating, try to understand, he was looking at the girl, but he was not, or he did not let the girl understand that he was also having a look at her from time to time. That means he was looking at the girl, but with covered glances, with veiled glances. Okay. Now, mm, from his keen, shrewd eyes, that means he was also interested. Keen means interested in that girl, as she was so beautiful, and the kind of conversations he was in. He was also taking notice of everything what was going on. And keen means highly interested or eagerness. Shrewd eyes means shrewd, the kind of person he was very sharp witted and very intelligent. Shrewd, this is what it means. That means astute also, the spelling is Astute. Okay. So he was kind of person who was extremely sharp witted, who was extremely intelligent, and astute also. You could also write this word once again. I'm repeating, Astute. Okay. So for today I think this much is enough. Let me see. Yeah, it's 41 minutes. So okay, for today I have taught you up to here. So let it be up to here today. Shrewd eyes. In my next video I'm gonna make you understand from here. You will excuse me for speaking. So this is a story which is gonna be so interesting, so fascinating for you guys. And I always tell you that I have to labor hard at taking out so many synonyms for you, and telling you and in making you understand each and every line, each and every word for that matter. So I have to labor hard behind all these things. So I really expect a big fat thumbs up from you guys. And also, if you like my ways of teaching, my ways of explanation, obviously I do think you must be liking my ways of teaching and explanation, then please do subscribe to my channel, and also uh, share my videos with your friends. And don't forget to press on the bell icon so that you get all my updates of videos as I'm uploading them. Okay, then till my next video with the next part of this chapter, we will meet again. I will catch you later in some days, in maybe in 2 or 3 days I'll catch you. Till then, bye bye.